We're identical twins. Growing up, we were stereotypically close like twins are. However, when he was 19, he started going out with his now wife, who was 17, and they've been together since. I get on with his wife, my sister-in-law, but she's caused a few issues in my family over the years. A clash of personalities, let's say. But after a while, we started to get on. He has a 15-year-old boy, a 12-year-old boy, and a 10-year-old boy. I have a 12-year-old daughter from my previous relationship who lives with me and my wife full-time. We can't have kids together, so my brother has made me the guardian of his kids, as he is my daughter, and I've always been close to them, almost like a second dad. Our 12-year-olds were only born a day apart, so they're like siblings and spend a lot of time together. Just over a year ago, it came out that his wife was having an affair, and they separated, and she got with the guy. My bro and his wife eventually reconciled when the guy bailed and canceled their divorce, and are back together doing all the therapy and counseling you can name. I told him I'll be civil to her because she's his missus, but I doubt I'll ever be cool with her, which begrudgingly he understands. However, what he didn't tell us when they got back together was that she was pregnant with the waste man's kid. We only found out 6 weeks ago when he announced he was at the hospital with his wife having a baby. She's had a little girl, and he's taking her on as his own. On the birth certificate, our surname, The Works. Even named her after our late aunt, who we were close to. Usually, when my nephews were born, I was one of the first at the hospital. However, I haven't been there at all. In my eyes, it's not my niece, just his stepchild. I think he's a sap personally, and I wouldn't do it, but there you go. So about a week later, he wanted to meet up, so I obliged. He asked me where I've been and why I haven't come to see the kid. I said I've been busy, and I haven't wanted to meet her. He was so shocked and said he expected better from the uncle of his daughter, and how do I expect to be the guardian of her with that attitude? I was like, I'm not her uncle, and I'm definitely not going to be her guardian. We got into a bit of a fight, and he stormed off. We hadn't spoken since, but he had texted me the next day and said, unless I accept her as his and become her uncle, we'll never speak again. My nephews haven't really spoken to me either. My daughter came to me last night crying, saying her cousin, my nephew, was really upset that I'm basically rejecting his sister. It's really upset her, and she thinks I should, and she's always wanted a cousin who's a girl. I haven't got any words for her that'll make sense. It's causing a real family issue. My dad thinks I'm being unfair. My mom's on my side, and my wife thinks I'm even being harsh, but is supporting my decision. I don't know what to do. I love my brother to bits and miss him and my nephews, but in my eyes, she's not my family. She's his stepkid. I have nothing against her, but I don't want to be her uncle, especially don't want to be her guardian. What should I do? I understand how you feel. Most people would be uncomfortable with that. Your brother was taken advantage of, is still being taken advantage of, and now wants you to get in on it to be taken advantage of as well. But your brother made his choice. He's choosing to accept the child as his own. The option here is pretty simple. Accept his decision and learn to love and accept the kid as he has. Or understand that the alternative is losing him and his family. I get being upset at the wife and all this. I really do. However, if he's forgiven her and wants to move forward, you need to come to peace with his decision. We may not always like it, speaking as an older brother, but if you want the relationship with him, you need to accept that she is now part of his family. And if you reject one member of his family, then you reject all of them. When it comes to being a guardian, if you don't want to be one, your brother can't be forcing you to. Update. So after a lot of thinking, I've sent him a message saying we really need to talk. He more or less agreed straight away, and we're probably going to meet up this weekend. Basically, after some time chatting with you all and thinking a lot, I truly don't know how I feel. I won't lie and say I'd immediately go, yeah, I'll be her uncle and guardian, but I need to hear him out, what he has to say, tell him how I feel, and go from there. Edited to add. The thing that I'm absolutely most opposed to is being her guardian. Some people know it as godparent. Basically, if he and his wife were to die, I'd take them on and raise them. I'd gladly do it for nephews, as they're basically like sons to me with us two being twins. But I couldn't raise her knowing she's not my blood. So basically, I met up with my twin yesterday and we had it out. I called him out on the way he has handled it all, saying it's ducked up he kept me in the dark, and the way he told me, tagging me in an Instagram post with his new child, was an utter shock. I had no time to process it, and then he basically gives me an ultimatum and cuts me off. It's not right. He defended himself by saying if he told me he was taking her back and taking the child on, I'd probably try to talk him out of it, and he was that vulnerable he'd have listened to me. He said he could see how happy his kids were having a baby brother or sister, and it was the happiest his wife's been in years, so went along with it for their sake. I said yeah, I probably would have tried, but ultimately, if he insisted he wanted to do it, I'd support him and would have been a lot more accepting of playing an uncle role. He said he sees where I'm coming from, because he feels the same way now that the emotion of her being born has died down. He's really struggling to bond. He said he loves her, but more because she's a baby, and doesn't feel that bond he did with his boys. And he's worried it's starting to show. He is pretending to sleep at night when she cries, so his ex gets up to feed her, and he was always up with his boys letting her sleep. He said the times he does feed her, he just sits there and stares. He said he'll also take purposely a long time to go and get shopping and food, and just sit there in his car having a cry. He's really depressed and thinks he should get time off work, but knows he can't as the family won't cope with him being out of work. Honestly, that ducked me up. He cried. I ducking cried too. I feel so bad he's suffering that way, and I now get why he acted the way he did to me. He was trying to convey how happy he is with it all. Now, we never cry. Growing up, our mom hated us crying and told us off if we did. Her attitude was that my dad doesn't cry and we shouldn't too. After we had our moment, I said I'll meet her, but not yet. I'll probably do it next weekend. He'll come over with the kids so my daughter can meet her too. I said I can't promise I'll be her guardian yet. I need to feel that bond I have with his boys, which he said he gets, but hates the thought that I could take them in but turn her away. So, as a compromise, my wife agreed to be her guardian for now so they wouldn't be split up, which works for us all until I decide. To provide context, my husband and I recently moved into a new house. We quickly became friends with our next-door neighbors. They have a 17-year-old who acts weird around my husband. For example, she'd greet my husband by giving him a kiss on the cheek while just shakes my hand. She always stands near their living room window in the evening when my husband's home. She'd come over with food she cooked and ask me to tell her if my husband liked it or not. She'd sit next to him whenever her family visits. She wanted to show him her room alone when we visited, but he politely declined. He told me she asked for his personal social media account, but he politely refused to give it to her. Her behavior is obviously inappropriate, and it wasn't just me and my husband who noticed. Her mother did too. And I was surprised when she told me that her daughter probably has a teenage crush on my husband, which, as she claimed, is totally normal and harmless. My husband just laughs it off and says that it's typical teenage behavior. I trust him, and he keeps me informed of whatever she does. I tried to limit contact with our neighbors as much as possible. We stopped coming over, but she and her mom visit with other neighbors where they're forced to act polite. Last week, I had a small gathering with the ladies from the neighborhood, and my neighbor and her daughter weren't invited, but came anyway. The guests were sitting in the living room the entire time. My neighbor's daughter kept asking when my husband was coming home in front of the ladies, and they noticed, but her mom quickly shut it down. I frequented the kitchen to prepare foods and drinks to serve, and had a couple of guests helping out. When I came back from the kitchen, I found that my neighbor's daughter had already left. I asked her mom, and she told me her daughter had some homework to do and wanted to leave early. I thought nothing of it. The next day, my husband kept looking for his work shirt and couldn't find it. We looked for it, but it was gone. I was confused because this is one of the shirts my husband wears regularly, and I was 100% sure I didn't throw it away, and I vividly remember seeing it in the closet the day before. In the evening, I got a visit from my neighbor, and she had my husband's shirt with her. I was puzzled. I asked where she got it, and she told me that her daughter took it from our closet and sneaked out with it, and swore up and down that she didn't know till later because her daughter was hiding it, and her mother discovered it an hour ago. I got very angry and pointed out that her daughter's behavior was way out of line, and that this is considered stealing even if it's just a shirt. Not to mention, basically the harassment towards me and my husband. She went on making excuses for her, saying she's a teenager letting her emotions dictate her behavior, and that soon she'll grow out of it. I flat out told her neither she nor her daughter are welcome into my house after she basically entered the bedroom without permission and stole the shirt. She said I had every right to react this way and again apologized for her daughter's behavior and again calling it harmless crush that we shouldn't take seriously. She kept apologizing either by sending messages or calling. I haven't talked to her in person since then. But her husband asked my husband what was going on, and my husband didn't tell him. Neither did I. My husband agreed that was unacceptable behavior, but told me that I was too harsh on our neighbor and should have just accepted the apology without saying hurtful things to her and telling her she's not welcome along with her daughter. But I don't trust her daughter after what she's done. My neighbor got the other ladies from the neighborhood to talk me into forgiving her and her daughter, but I kept refusing to discuss it. I feel so mad at the amount of disrespect I'm seeing, and I'm having a hard time setting boundaries since everyone keeps telling me let it go, even my husband. She's obsessed. You need to make sure your husband has zero contact with her and is never alone with her. She'll probably try to seduce him next and may cry R or S assault when he rejects her. Also, cameras are your best friend now. Install them everywhere, inside and out. My stepmother has been dating my dad, 37, for 3 years, and they had a baby together the beginning of last year. I'll call stepmother Annie and my little sister Emma. A bit before Annie and my dad had Emma, they were pregnant with another baby, but it had some medical issues and died during an induced birth. Everyone knew he was going to die. They nearly broke up over it because my dad thought she carried on about it too much. Annie used to be very involved in my family, offering us rides and whatnot all the time. She seemed genuinely quite helpful. After she had Emma, she stopped doing anything. Our family lives an hour away from the town where her and I both live, and she's up there all the time, but never visits and won't let family visit her. When they do, she won't let them really interact with Emma and puts her down for a nap when she knows they're coming. This is so prevalent that when I babysat for the whole day a while back, my dad told our family that Annie wouldn't be home, and I got so many visitors. Annie came home early and seemed a bit sour about it all and went to sleep. I understand that having a baby is hard. She is rude to my family and about us when we are not around. She is more gossipy and childish than me. It's embarrassing sometimes. When Emma was born, Annie had some problems with milk. Emma gained weight slowly, but was pretty much a happy little baby. I visited quite a lot, but Annie clearly didn't like it, so I backed off a bit. I'm not sure when it started, but Emma started getting sick just all the time. There are hundreds of photos of her in hospital on Facebook, so much so that most of my family has hidden her posts because they upset them. When they try to contact Annie about it, she ignores them. We literally find out that she is in the hospital because of Facebook, or there will be photos of Emma looking exhausted and worn out and sick. It is probably important to note that my dad works all day, 6 days a week, so Annie is the main parent, I guess. Recently, they got a hair strand test done and apparently she is allergic to everything. I don't want to go into detail, but she basically can't eat. I don't know if these allergies are true. I'm inclined to believe some of them. It's just strange because when I visit, Emma is happy and healthy and just a cute little baby. I have left and got back to my home and gone on Facebook, and apparently Emma is vomiting and crying and being hella clingy and probably won't sleep that night. Annie is always posting about Emma's allergies and illnesses and how useless all hospitals and doctors are. She also goes towards natural medicine quite a bit, which is fine, but she uses them solely and Emma stays sick. There are always comments on her post from Annie's worried friends. They get replies, but my family is ignored. After Emma being sick all the time, Annie is very interested in hospital environments, and she even wants to go study something in the medical field, akin to nursing. She had to take me to hospital because I stopped breathing a few months ago, and she was explaining what my vitals were saying on the machines, and what they meant, and when the ER doctor would talk to me. Annie was always saying, "Oh yeah, I know that," or give her own explanation right after him. This would be fine, but it seemed a little manic and know-it-all-y. She posted on Facebook about how I was in hospital too. I don't know. Emma could be actually sick. Emma seems to love Annie a lot when Annie isn't just taking photos of her or playing on the phone. I'm just concerned, and I am not the only one. Most of my family thinks Annie has Munchausen by proxy. I don't know how to confront this sort of situation. I think it would offend my dad. Is there something else I should be looking out for? Edit. I need to clarify some things. Annie makes herself sick pretty often and calls in sick to work when she isn't. My dad and her work in the same place, so when she does that, he is the one that has to cover her, as he is her supervisor. He hates working this much, but she won't work and is spending too much. I was very close with Annie, so was my aunt. She completely flipped her attitude on us, and nobody knows why. Grief counseling was offered after baby 1 died. She refused. Baby 1 died 2 years ago. She won't let my family see Emma. I'm allowed, but I think that's because she doesn't know how to say no to me, and because Emma is always happy to see me, like screamingly so. Recently, a family member managed to visit and asked to hold Emma, and Annie's response was just, "Really? Really?" Like confused that Emma's family wants to hold her, just to add a bit about her character. I like my stepmother, just some things seem weird. I don't know why she won't speak to me properly anymore. My family is very trained in the allergies Emma has, as I had them as a child, but she said we obviously don't. I don't think she's poisoning her with poisons, but with the foods that make her ill. Emma only gets sick in Annie's care, not my dad's. Be less worried about offending your dad and more worried about protecting your sister. If you genuinely believe something is going on, talk to your father. If that doesn't work, call CPS and outline your concerns so they can dig deeper into her medical records and such.